Hello, everybody. First of all, I want to thank David and Luis for going ahead with this virtual edition of the PMF 2020, and of course for having me here. And I'm going to read now from this book. This is Collected Voices in the Expanded Field, published this year by 1111 Press. And this is a novel written in collaboration by 34 authors, and my chapter is chapter 7. So I'm reading from this chapter 7. Were you human before 4D transition, or just some dirty blobs of undifferentiated cells? Never mind. All matter is molecular puke. Is there something humanesque beyond that obsolescent bipedal appearance? Las máquinas mueren también, the Huawei Tesla man said. How long since Huawei Tesla started manufacturing people? What's people anyway? The last time any of you checked, a minimum 55% of inherited or synthetic human tissue was a legal requirement. You are an 80% average team. You would be therefore recognized as people in any territorial patch. Wondering how it was before most breeds of people were corporate market, yet not actually caring about brands. There's brands enough these days despite the abundance of nice counterfeit individuals. Wild-type humans are probably overrated, but everybody wants to have access to some specimen now, since it became clear that the final thing can be fully designed in advance. Just a few minor embryonic value improvements, and then waiting for years until the complete development as harlequin young adults before annexing some inorganic updates, often over-engineered and mechanically baroque. Sometimes it happens that the bioparts dies unexpectedly. The machinery is unable to resuscitate its organs but keeps going. Luxated robotic silver parts, marinated in rotting flesh, can be spotted crawling around power stations, crushing their own bones and joining them anew. Crustacean songbirds covered by swarming larvae and scavenged by beastie birds. Birds are filthy, you know, but you picture them clean because they look like dainty components of air and music. Why does the Huawei Tesla man speak Spanish? Muchos humanos sintéticos se comunican en español, en portugués, en árabe. It's their way to show that they speak for themselves, that they are not just mirrored samplets from a network-harvested multi-discourse. Language is mother to simulate individual babbling. The rest is code. Every time English or Chinese are written or spoken, something is programmed, automatically uploaded and recognized as new lines to be added to the system's ongoing biblicoidal DNOid instructions. That's how human-machines are synchronized, although the process might induce choreographic prosthetic scissors in a variable percentage of the improvises. Wild types keep the babeloidal languages they were raised in, as if they played a permanent, undivided personality role. Wild types are weaker, minimal, and whimsical, expensive to care for, only for the rich in their hyper-nomadic mobile mansions. Biorhythm confusing fossil angels, but skull-melting sexy if they really dig you. Mummy protheses, made from the remains of wild types, arrive from error surplus stores, ultraviolet, appreciated in neutral nitrogen, seeds of the bad carbon their bodies were made of. In the near future, they are promised, everybody will be dead for 15 minutes. Being dead will actually be entertainment, while electrons wash their Coulomb fits in the very systems of deep time. Safe word is Dahlia, and drowning is their garden. They farm themselves for sticky venom drops. Night not unlike fear of the cold metal meat. Horror as fetish, stamped on the screen skin to cover up atrocities committed in plain sight. In the pixel dancing familiarity of strangers. Safe word is password or password, nothing safe anyway, to psyop thoughts through manic tissues and return to the world words. As if. As infinitely informed by the cosmogonic bureaucracy they had invented to drone-fact their bloodless dummies. They argue, but safe word is they, and surrender is their garden. Safe word is password or shibboleth, kindly provided by the lurking half-brain to tuck safety away, to bleach their anuses and tentacles, to simulate an entrance, an adventurous syntactic anesthesia while being devoured. Silent mantras meant not to be pronounced in loud voice, but stir around the system once and again to cope with the brutal amplification of the present. Passwords are open doors to the machine's sensorium and the hope of a charm to close holes back when pain becomes unbearable, when it starts opening cracks in your skull. And safeguards are the machine of gardens, their gardens of machines and their watering hole. Reprieve from the old dusty patch. Needless to say, you are needles away from the dream of a hyper-nomad home. All your debt is technical, and they will not be tricked by any amount of treacherous money or eccentric behavior. They're an event, never a self. They are required to be continuously upgrading by perceiving meaningless animation and subtle gradients of psychochemical interactions. A soul built by spitting over the surface of the sun. All the wine music hosted inside their joints talks now about them. They collect toenails and teeth pulled out with the scorpion claws. The moon rides its pale horses, ray cords vibrating down to the honey sands. Ahead of non-human voices, Goldilocks the visitors into a party of metal and clowns. None of the 1,000 voices in the alter ego of the prophet's head is a human voice. Obnubilation, claiming a cloud. They're foodies, managing to get delicatessen delivered to the haunted house. Bleached bars, parallel morning, anti-trees. Said to be scintillating. Death is near, even in this clean sound illuminated ruin. As madness is forbidden, they became a quotidian song. They've machine learned that sociopaths and system paths are great lovers because they only care about others' static interludes as a mechanism of control. It never made sense to grow up, becoming responsible for themselves or for others. It was an orgy of destruction, a sport. You're there to be meta-rebuilt, reconstructed by sharing with the system your recent episodes of pain, how metal bites into the flesh with collagen, hyaluronate, and cushions are not adequately refilled. How often anesthesia fails. All your suffering written into code, put back into the satellite of feedback loops. Drink your magnesium infusion and let yourselves be lost in the repetitive flush crash, while all your experience since the last uploading session are being sucked out by the dancers of the purple flame, statistically managed and returned to you, tagged with the proper significance by the ever-present Migdala Queen. There was a time when they thought of singularity as consciousness emerging, abstract thinking, logical reasoning, mind uploading, all kind of psychonautics and soul-searching sidereal stuff. But this is over now. Nothing like that ever came up from tinkering with qubits, artificial hippocampi, and a hive cortex made of synthetic bees. The system is indeed reading them, yet not their minds, which might mean that maybe no minds were ever there to read. It reads their guts and guns and dicks and hearts and tongues and limbs and kidneys and buttholes and hands and eyes and lungs and yes, their brains. It doesn't make any difference. It gets some basic features such as pain and pleasure levels and thresholds and some elements of perception, but what it mainly reads are behavioral patterns. What they do or say, and the way they do it, not why or how they decide to do it, or how they feel while planning it or after it's done. It records words but not ideas, physical pain but not moral suffering. It recognizes physiological satisfaction but not joy. So they started to think again about the inexistence of thinking. The system is a demon, not a fucking god. It's good for flashing machines and bodies with waves and tides of pleasure and pain. Gods used to come from the past, like inherited diseases, but they are eradicated now. It all began with a fusion of commerce and prosthetics, trying to predict the next purchases, their unspoken kinks, or the next movement of a mechanical limb to prevent a misstep when walking over an irregular terrain. And it became a universal toy machine embedded in every action perception loop. It fed them abstract food. It learned how they are made and helped to make them. It knows and accepts each one of them, leaving aside the unconnected, demon-free wild types, whose esoteric behavior has become the rarest and more valuable information. For what they've done, not for what they believe they did, or for what they would rather have done, or for what they would like to do. Like any demonic force, it encourages ritual reiteration, but unwanted repetition is avoidable by muttering a safe word. The more everything changes, the better the system helps with changing, so diversity, impurity, and miscegenation are encouraged. 99.99% of recorded non-silent mutations are as innocuous as tattoos. They don't improve any functional outcome, yet they are often randomly inserted for their aesthetic value. Genetic idola made your racemic, inexpressive face, your orgalex, those semi-independent, regenerative, semioaesthetic pseudo-organisms produced by your bodies as a consequence of the neutron flow DNA cell hacking and platform lifeforms reprogramming. Worming out from your own flesh, so many pseudo-organisms made of lab-grown human cells faking life all around. You are a thermonautic network of individuals oozing connectivity from internal biodisorder. Locating and losing each other via blinking Bluetooth, click beetles, and fireflies. Flesh craves flesh as code rewrites code, as magnets attract madness. Tidal waves are beautiful, wild, invasive, and warm since the polarized caps melted away into the extra sea. Since the world became a quasi-homogeneous, almost global, seasonless tropic. You travel as a swarm. You perform ritual dances while cute-chasing wild types like VR video game prey, trapping them with the promise of a better life in the company of the rich. They don't want wild types for a purpose. Just expect them to be around doing whatever they want. Non-consensual violence is forbidden. Serfdom is forbidden, which means non-coded, which means impossible except for 100% bias. who run on mitochondria in unsaturated epistemology and often fight each other over esoteric nuances and misunderstandings. So wild-type harvesting teams have evolved into alluring enough ambulant circuses to trick bios away from their unexplainable machine-like sedentarism and spontaneous lifestyle, including obsolete delicacies like unpredictable family gatherings, learning games, living in printed modular houses, cooking food, erratic garment style, burying the dead, sunbathing, avoiding toxins, painting walls, and genderoid skin-to-skin sex. They usually approach each other from the distance, armed with their flexible gorgonautic mirrors. However, while young, they are easily fascinated by the lure of physical entertainment. They like to be licked and rubbed and fed candy, so you need to glutton them away, dance them away, satire knife them away from their homes into your nomad orgy of electroflesh and ionized lubricant, your stream of consciousness. Pleasure is a hail of fanged numbers, a shell of code. Space and time are computers. I am a graveyard of scribes. Reprieve from the old dusty path. You see a watering hole. Jump inside.